In talking about encoding, that's step one of the information processing model, getting information into the brain, there are actually a couple of different types of ways we can do that. Specifically, encoding depends a lot on how we process information. And when we're taking information in, we're viewing it through a certain type of lens. And so, very simply, we have shallow encoding, we have shallow processing, and we have deep encoding or deep processing. And so, there was a study done by two researchers, Craik and Tolving, and their study was looking at the differences between these types of encoding and whether or not the way you encoded information would change your ability to recall the information at a later date. So what they did was they set up an experiment where they could control the way that someone processed or encoded information. And so pretty much what they did was they came up with a couple of sample questions that would allow them to evoke a certain type of processing. Pretty much, they would ask the participant a question right before they flash them a certain word. So if you see in sample question 1, the question would be, is the word in capital letters? And then they would flash a word either in capital or not in capital. And the question would force someone to encode or process that word in a visual manner. So they would be focusing on what the word looked like. Sample question 2, you can see, would be, does the word rhyme with train? Word would be flashed, either it would rhyme with train or it wouldn't, but here the person would be focusing on the acoustics. So they would be accomplishing acoustic processing because they're focusing on what the word sounds like. In the final question you see, they're asking, would the word fit in this sentence? So the girl put the blank on the table. The girl put the doll on the table. You can fit in any word there. So if you're viewing the word through that lens, you're now focusing on the meaning. And so this is known as semantic processing. Now, if you remember from our demonstration where I read you all of those words, half of the class had to count the vowels. The other half had to think of, well, would this be useful on a desert island? You'll already hopefully know that semantic processing or processing related to meaning leads generally to the best recall. And Craik and Tolving's research also demonstrated that. When they, at a later date, asked individuals to indicate whether or not they had seen a certain word before in the experiment, the individuals who had processed the words deeply on a semantic level had the greatest amount of recall. Second highest recall would have been the acoustic processing, so what did the word sound like? And the least amount of recall was linked to that visual because that was considered the most shallow. So what the takeaway message of this, and it's something we already know, is that if we can encode information based on what that information means, specifically what it means for us, that's going to lead to our greatest ability to recall it at a later date.